two stocks I am watching very close right now during the market crash that is happening and is crazy. I'm a very new investor and I'm getting into the market at a crazy time. Before we get into it, I just want to say thank you to everybody for all of the support on my first video. That's kind of, I suppose, bringing you along on my new investing journey. I hope to keep bringing you along and keep you excited and up to date with everything I'm doing. If you haven't seen it yet, here it is. But genuinely, just thank you all so much for the support. If you want to see more videos on this journey, please, all you have to do is drop a like on the video right now. It helps me out big time, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. As soon as we hit 900 subs, we're only 15 away, I'm going to release my full stock portfolio to all of you, which I'm really excited to do. So as soon as we get 900 subs, that video is happening. And just lastly, I'm not a financial advisor or anything of the sorts. Everything I talk about in this video is just what I'm looking at and what I may or may not plan on doing. So just think of it that way. I'm not advising you to go out and get any stocks or anything along those lines. But without further ado, let's get into why you're all here. The first of the two stocks that I am watching right now is Carnival Cruise Line. Okay, it's the world's biggest cruise line by far, and it is plummeting majorly right now, like an awful lot of stocks, because of the virus that is the same name as a light beer that I won't say its name because then the video gets demonetized, which means my videos get seen by less people. I don't make money off this yet, but I still want people to be able to see it. So the virus is what we're going to refer to that as today. This virus is affecting nearly every company in the world. Any company that involves any sort of human interaction. So even massive companies like Disney and Apple have seen massive drops in their earnings because of the virus. And that is quite a scary thing for current investors, but it's also a really exciting thing because it's like we're getting a discount on pretty much every stock that exists right now. So a lot of people are scared of this virus because they see their portfolios and their stocks becoming less and less valuable. But to me, it's exciting when the stock becomes less valuable. If I believe that it's going to grow in the long term, it's like I'm getting it cheaper. So if a stock's gone down 40%, my €100 is now essentially a €140 investment, which is absolutely crazy and so powerful. Now, I'm a long-term investor. Anything that I put my money into, I don't plan on touching it for decades and decades to come. So if a company gets hammered over the next year, 2, 3 years, it doesn't matter to me too much if I see my money going down and down, because ultimately I believe it's going to skyrocket up in the coming decades. So with that being said, cruises have been gaining so much popularity over the last few years. Obviously, this next year or two may be very tough for them, like it's going to be for pretty much every business, but in the long term, if this trend continues, there is no doubt in my mind this stock is going to go high. So right now, it is very high risk. In the short term, it could plummet. It could go so much further down. Nobody knows, but in the long term, I think it's an amazing investment. So this stock in the last month alone, just 1 month, has gone down nearly 40% in value. That is a crazy amount. And again, that's so scary to a lot of people, but to me, it's a 40% sale that's on. Just think of this stock, right? Think of a closing down sale. You go downtown and there's a closing down sale and it starts off at 40%. And then as it gets closer to its closing day, it's 60% off, then 70% off, then 80% off. So this still has a lot of room to go down, but the further it goes down, the bigger the sale. Right now, it's an absolute bargain. It's 40% off, but it could go down even lower. And because of the fact I could see this going down lower, that's why I'm not going to buy it tomorrow or the next day. I might buy a small amount and just dollar cost average. To anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's when you invest in a company over a long time. So say I put €50 into it tomorrow, €50 in the next week and the week after and the week after, instead of putting €200 in, boom, straight up front, and that is all. So that's what dollar cost averaging is when you keep investing at different prices. This company has shown great earnings in the last 5 years, and although now their expected earnings are much lower than they were before the virus came around, in the long term, it still looks to me like an absolute steal. Now, if you watched my first video, you'll know that I am a dividend investor. And this company currently has a very high dividend of 7.37%. That means for every €100 I put in, they're going to pay me $7.37 at the end of the year just for having that stock, just for buying it. So I don't have to do anything and I'm going to get paid that much money. So even if the stock does continue to dip and dip, some of my losses will be negated by that dividend, which is powerful stuff. And this company has continued to pay dividends for well over 10 years. The last time it didn't was during the last recession. And since then, their dividend has been climbing up and up and up, which is awesome for an investor like myself who loves dividend stocks. Their PE ratio is also sitting at 6.48, which is more than 50% less than the sector average, which again is crazy. It shows that the stock is so cheap for what you're getting out of it. It is so cheap right now, it's crazy. Now look, I'm a realist as well, so I heavily expect that they're going to have a really tough year or two. As long as this new virus is around, they're going to have a really tough time, and their earnings will probably go down and down and down, and their share may well go down and down and down, but that doesn't bother me. They currently have over 45% of all cruise customers worldwide. That is a massive amount of the population. A massive amount of people who go on cruises go with this company. And to me, it just shows so much growth potential. Now, when you see my portfolio, you will see that this is probably one of the scariest or most kind of hard to predict stocks that I will be investing in. Most of my stocks are extremely safe long-term bets, but I'm young and sometimes you have to take a little bit more of a risk in order to get a little bit more of a reward. So this is definitely a scarier stock. I have done a lot of research into it, and I am genuinely quite confident that in the coming decades it is going to do very well. Nobody knows if it will or not, but anyway, this stock definitely does scare me a little bit, but as I said earlier, when others are fearful, you need to be greedy. Right now I'm fearful, so maybe that means I need to be a little bit more greedy. The second stock I'm watching very close right now is Delta Airlines, and a lot of people on YouTube in particular have been speaking about this stock. Warren Buffett, one of the best investors ever, has currently increased his position in Delta, and if that man feels like a stock is a good buy, then I definitely feel like it's a good buy. They're the #1 airline globally in regards to revenue. Like, that is crazy. Out of all the airlines in the world, they are making the most. Now, similar to Carnival Cruise, they are also in the travel industry, which is being hit particularly hard right now because of the virus. But again, to me, as a long-term investor, that just means that they have the biggest discount right now. Right now, it's a really scary place. It's a really scary industry to be investing in. But when you believe in the company in the long term, it's an amazing place to be. Now, again, there's no doubt in my mind that over the next year or two, or however long it takes for us to figure out the virus, how to get rid of it, how to control it, when we get a vaccine, etc. Until then, it's going to be a really shaky investment. But again, in the long term, I do so believe that this company will do great things. Their EPS is going up despite the virus, which is crazy. I don't think anybody in the world sees airplanes or airlines going anywhere anytime soon. People are always going to have to get across the world, and that is the best means of transportation we have to do so as of right now. Whether it be for business or for pleasure, people are always going to need to fly. And I was in Budapest just last week, and let me tell you, the two airports we were in, Dublin Airport and Budapest Airport, were both as booming as I've ever seen them before. Like, you wouldn't know that there was a pandemic going on. They were both the exact same as always. Now, why is the stock plummeting? Because there's so many flights being cut off, especially by these bigger airlines. Flights to places like China and pretty much everywhere in Asia have been cancelled, like, for very good reason, and that is meaning that earnings are going to be down, and again, that leads to a bad year or two potentially. But in the long term, as I just said, when the cure is found, when the vaccine's found, those flights will be back to normal, they'll be back bringing in the money, and your earnings will be up yet again. So to me, long term, it seems like a fantastic investment, even though it is really, really, really scary right now. We've seen things like this happen to airlines and anybody in the travel sector before. When there was other pandemics, earnings nearly always will go down, but ultimately they always come back out higher than ever. It's just that simple. As the world grows, as the economy grows, there are going to be more flights, more planes. That's just the way it works. So Delta stock has dropped by nearly 25% the last month. So again, that is a massive, massive sale. It's even lower than when Warren Buffett bought it right now. Again, I could definitely see this going lower and lower, so I will just be dollar cost averaging. Again, I'm not going to make a crazy big investment because I think, oh, this could be good, it could go back up. I'll play it smart and do it slowly but surely, and each time I make a new investment, it'll be at a better price more than likely. It also currently has a dividend of just over 3.5%, so yet again, if there is some losses along the road, that dividend is going to negate some of them. It's amazing. That dividend has also been increased and paid out consistently over the last 6 years, which is awesome. It's pretty safe that they're going to continue paying this dividend. Now, both of these stocks that I've just spoke about are definitely higher risk than what 90% of my portfolio is going to be. And that is also a good thing to note, is that 90% of my portfolio is being played quite safely, because again, I'm a very long-term investor. So what's the harm in having 10 to 20% a little bit more high risk, especially when I'm so young, and especially when I do the research on these stocks and I do still believe in them. I'm not just choosing them because, oh, they have a really high dividend, they could go up. It's because they're two companies that I really do believe in. And whenever the next recession does happen, nobody knows when it's going to happen. These stocks, just like every other stock in the world, or at least 95% of stocks, will go down, and they will go down a lot, and you will lose a lot of money in the short term. But whenever we get out of that recession, boom, we're going to keep buying during that recession. It's going to be like a massive closing down sale, and boom, those stocks will just go up and up and up as they have done in the past. The best time when you could have invested in the stock market in the last 20 years was during the last recession. It was like a massive closing down sale, and your stocks would be worth so much more than they are right now. So that's why when the next recession does inevitably come, I'm not worried. I'm really not worried. I will invest more. I'll probably invest harder than I ever have before, and ultimately we will come out on top. And just a last word on Delta and Carnival cruise lines, I suppose. I do definitely see both of them going lower. Obviously I can't predict the stock market, but just because of the virus and everything that's happening in the stock market right now, I do definitely believe they'll go lower. And that's why I'm not just going to do a massive lump sum, and I'm not even going to invest in them just yet. I'm just going to be monitoring them very closely. So guys, hopefully you did enjoy that video. Hopefully I could have given you some insight on how I do look into and choose what stocks I am going to invest in. And if you enjoyed, please do leave a like. As I said, once we get to 900 subs, I'm going to release my entire portfolio, so please do subscribe if you're new. Drop me a comment, let me know what stocks you're buying. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Peace.